Last week, I mentioned in one of my videos that I was going to be welcoming a new member to my team. The business name he goes by is Mr. Lens, so you can find him on Instagram as Mr. Lens. Now, for those of you who watch my videos regularly, you'll remember that I told him when I was bringing him on board that I'm not going to be able to teach him much about photography because he's already a talented photographer and photo editor. So the best I'd be able to teach him would be on dealing with, marketing, sales, and relating with customers, customer service, those sorts of things. And so he was fine with that, and I think we're going to have a good working relationship. For those of you who would like to see the products of our first collaboration, if you just go onto my Instagram, you will see that I put up photos yesterday, and those were the results of our first collaboration so far. Those are images that I took myself sometime last year, and he put the finishing touches on them. He did the retouching. I also promised my regular viewers that I'm going to be sharing the lessons I'm going to be sharing the lessons and the discussions that I have with Mr. Lens in my goal of trying to make him a better and more rounded photographer. So I mentioned that the first lesson that we had the first time was I told him not to bring up the issue of his age because he's only 19 years old, and like most youngsters that age, they always lead the conversation with, I'm 19, I'm 18, I'm 16, and I told him that he shouldn't lead with that he should lead with the quality of his work. He should let the quality of his work do the talking. And I'm glad that when I saw him in person, he remembered and took to heart that lesson. So now there's none of that talk of, I'm a 19-year-old photographer, and nothing like that. So it's just the work leading for itself. Now the second lesson that I had with him and that I want to share with you guys, because I think it's going to be valid for those of you who have some side hustles, is not to lower your price. I'm not going to go into how to set your price in the first place, but this is my assumption that in whatever it is that you do, whatever your side hustle is, in his own case, his own side hustle is doing retouching work for other photographers, like he did retouching work for me. Retouching is when you take a photograph and then you remove all the blemishes and you make a few corrections in light and shadow and color and contrast and things like that. So retouching is his side hustle. Now for his side hustle, I sent a client, a prospective client, his way to do some work for him, and the person got in touch with him and they negotiated, but unfortunately the rate that they negotiated was 5 times less than what the official rate is. Well, not the official rate, but the going rate, let me put it that way, was 5 times less. And so that's the reason why the next thing I wanted to discuss with him was the pricing issue. So now back to what I was saying. So in your side hustle, you've already decided on a price for what it is that you do. And in my own opinion, once you have set the price, whether the price is a fair price or not, if you've set it, I really don't think you should start tweaking it at all, for a number of reasons. The first reason is that once you start going down on price, instead of trying to argue your value or sell your value, you end up with clients who don't really appreciate what you bring to the table, and those kinds of clients are not loyal. And I placed the bet with Mr. Lens. I told him, this guy that I sent to you and you ended up working with, and he undercut your price by 5 times of what the going rate is going to be. I told him, just watch, this guy is not going to come back to you again. And if he does, and you give him what you think a more fair price would be to you, he'll leave you, and then he'll go to somebody else where he can get a cheaper price. So the best thing that we should do in so I think the best thing that we ought to do in this kind of situation is to argue the value, is to try and sell the value that you bring to the table. That's the reason why people should be working with you, not necessarily because you're the cheapest. And how do you find out the value you bring to the table? You find that out by speaking to your past clients who are already satisfied, and they will tell you what is unique about the product or your service and what it is that they really enjoyed about working with you. And that is what you use to now sell yourself when you're meeting prospective clients. So in this case with Mr. Lenz, I told him that the things that he should be using to sell his case are that, one, he's really quick. He works really, really fast. You can hand him a bunch of photos, maybe 20 photos, and he'll be done in about 2 hours or so. So he's really fast. That's one. Number two, his work is really professional and clean. That's another thing that he needs to sell. And then number three, for photographers, he gives a certain level of security that we're not used to. Because what happens with most photographers is you take these photos, you send them off to the retoucher, and then in between, there's a lot of anxious waiting. Is the guy going to deliver on time? And is he going to do a good job? Things like that. And so it's not until you get the photos back that, you're now safe and secure and you have your job. Well, Mr. Lenz works the other way around. He goes to you, or you guys meet at a location where he's been able to get some office space that he rents from time to time. So that's also an added benefit. There's the security there for the photographer because he comes to you, or you go to him, you sit down there, and then 2-3 hours later, you take all your photographs and you're done. So I told him that those should be the chief selling points that he should be using when he's talking with other clients in the future. So when they tell him drop your price, your response should be, this price is fair, especially for the value that I provide. I'm fast, I'm professional, and you also have the security of being able to get your photos in 3 hours, and then you're going to be here sitting right next to me and deliver whatever input that you think I need on the job, on the fly, and that way you get exactly what it is that you want. So I can tell that he's probably going to have to hear it a few more times and have me insist that he should learn to stick to his price, but that's a lesson that I think all of us could use. So in negotiating with clients, and for those of you who have your side hustles, please do not lower your price. Once you've fixed your price, just keep it at that and learn to argue or sell your value instead. Later on, I'm going to talk about different ideas about how you come about a fair price or a competitive price whenever you're getting ready to start out in business. But for now, just remember, don't lower your price, learn to sell your value.